This is the AREC, or the Alaska Real Estate Consumer Disclosure. You'll use this with every single client you ever work with. Big headline at the top of page 1 says, "This is not a contract." So you're not binding the consumer to you. You're simply telling them what your duties are under Alaska law, depending on the relationship that they choose below. The disclosure points to some Alaska statutes and asks the consumer to pick or initial only one relationship type. They cannot initial all three types, okay? Here's the 3 relationship choices. Specific assistance, number 1. Specific assistance, there's no representation here. Here's what it means in kid simple terms. It means I'm just helping with info and logistics. I don't take your side, and I might represent the other party. Confidentiality, there is nothing that they tell you that is confidential unless you and they agree otherwise, okay? Your duties, here's the 5 basics. Use reasonable skill and care, be honest and act in good faith, present all written communications promptly, disclose any material facts you actually know about the property's physical condition, and account in a timely way for any money or property that you receive. Then the consumer initials and dates under this column if they want info-only help, so they are not represented here. Number 2 is representation. What this means is, hey, I'm your agent. I represent only the consumer that's listed here, so you, unless everyone in the deal agrees in writing otherwise. So you still owe all the specific assistance duties plus these added duties. Don't intentionally do anything adverse or detrimental to your client. Disclose your conflicts of interest in a timely manner. Recommend outside experts when something is beyond your scope or your expertise. Keep your client's confidential information private during and after representation, unless they consent in writing or some law requires you to disclose it. And make a good faith, continuous effort for your client and their goals. The consumer initials and dates under this column if they want full representation. Number 3 here is a neutral licensee. What this means is I can assist both sides in the same transaction, but I don't represent either one. So think more like a facilitator than representation. So the duties here are all 5 of the specific assistance duties, plus the representation style duties A, B, C, D, and E. So skill and care, no adverse acts, disclose conflicts of interest, advise experts, keep confidences, but not the continuous effort duty. So do not disclose the actual terms of the amount that a consumer is willing to pay or accept if that differs from what they've formally offered or accepted. If the consumer wants you to be neutral, then you have to attach the waiver of right to be represented, which is a separate form that we'll go over, for a neutral relationship. The consumer initials and dates under the neutral section, and you attach the waiver. It's important to note that a consumer can pre-authorize you to be neutral, but they can't pre-authorize specific assistance. Meaning you can represent someone right up until you go neutral for them, but you can't represent someone and then go backward to specific assistance, okay? Duties not owed by a licensee on page 1. Unless you and the consumer agree otherwise, you do not owe these 3 things under Alaska statute. Number 1 is doing an independent inspection of the real estate. You're not a home inspector. Number 2 is doing an independent investigation of anyone's financial condition. You're not a licensed lender. And number 3 is independently verifying the accuracy or completeness of statements that are made by parties or other seemingly reliable sources. Meaning if a home inspector or a lender or appraiser tells you something, you don't have to dig into it and verify if it's true. You can just take them at face value for being true. Okay, page 2, this is the signature acknowledgement block. The consumer signs, says that they read and understand the disclosure and the relationship choices under Alaska law. You fill in the brokerage name, so real broker, licensee name, your name, and your signature and date. Each consumer signs and dates. So if it's a husband and wife couple, they both sign. If it's just the one person, the one party that you represent, they're going to sign. So anybody that's part of the contract or part of the AREC signs here. The addendum box, you mark whether an addendum is or is not attached. If there's more than one licensee that's involved in the consumer in this single transaction, you must attach the consumer disclosure addendum listing all licensees and the relationship for each. Not all licensees have to have the same relationship with the consumer, meaning if your TC is licensed and they sign the AREC here, your TC might just have a specific assistance relationship with the consumer while you have full representation with them. And then the reminder line in bold, this consumer disclosure is not a contract. So say that out loud when presenting to the consumer. It helps. The Consumer Disclosure Addendum, page 3. Here's when you need it. Use this only if there's more than one licensee in a relationship with the consumer for the transaction. So usually if you're on a team or if you're co-listing with 2 or more licensees on a transaction, you have to mark SRN for each additional licensee. So S is specific assistance, R is representation, N is neutral. And if you do neutral, then you'll have to attach the waiver of right to be represented for each licensee that you do. The team section says if those licensees work as a team, then you list the team name and the brokerage name. This clarifies that a team is not its own brokerage. It's just 2 or more licensees within the same brokerage working collectively as one unit. Acknowledgement and consumer signatures and dates appear again here, confirming that they understand the duties are limited by the relationship shown on page 3. And the bottom line reminder repeats, this consumer disclosure is not a contract. So here's some tips when presenting this as a licensee. Start with the headline. Just come right out and say, this isn't a contract. It's me telling you what duties I owe to you depending on how we work together. And then have them choose which lane. So specific assistance, representation, or neutral. Make sure initials and dates match whichever lane they choose. If it's neutral that they choose, then stop and attach the waiver form before moving on. If there's more than one licensee that's involved in the consumer, attach the addendum, clearly mark SRN for each licensee, and include the team info if you guys are on a team. And then set expectations. Say you'll be honest, timely, and careful. You'll disclose material property facts that you know, but you won't inspect the home, verify anyone's finances, or confirm every single statement that's made to you unless you've separately agreed to do that. Confidentiality check. Under representation and neutral, you have to protect confidential info. And in neutral, you also never get to reveal the true bottom line if it differs from the written terms. Under specific assistance, info isn't confidential unless you both agree otherwise.